च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। In the last class, we were studying the fifth and the sixth verse of the sixth chapter of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. The sixth chapter is the Dhyana Yoga. And in the sixth verse, we mentioned that it is the self which is the friend of the self, but it is again the self which is the enemy of the self. So, Bandhur Atmanam Atmanasya Yenatmaivatmana Jitaha. So that for a Yogarudha, the one who is established in yoga, who has conquered the self, the first self means the body and the senses, by his self. So in Sanskrit, the word Atman is used in many senses. It means the body and the senses in one sense. It means the mind in another sense. It means the innermost core of our being, the self, in another sense. So here, when he is saying that you conquer the self by the self, means you conquer your body and the senses with the mind. So a yoga rura, one is an adept. He has conquered his body and the senses with his mind. So for such a person, the self is his friend. The self is his friend. So this friendliness of a self-controlled yoga rura is illustrated in the next three verses. So that will be that what that friendliness means. That when we can conquer our body and the senses with the help of the mind, the friendliness which has been spoken of, what are the traits of that friendliness? What are the characteristics? That will be spoken of in the next three verses, the 7th, the 8th, and in the 9th verse. So the 7th verse, what it is speaking? Bhagavan is saying, Jitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahita shitoshna sukha dukkheshu tatha man apamanayoho. So he who has conquered himself, he is serene, prashanta, and he is jitatmana. He has conquered his inner self. He is jitatmana, he is serene, and he is absorbed in the Supreme Self, Paramatma Samahita. So these three characteristics. He is absorbed in the self, Jitatmana, he has conquered his self, his body and the mind and the senses he has controlled, and he is Prashanta, he is always in that tranquil state. And not only that, after that, he is equipoised, he is always in that state of calmness in all the dualities of life. What are the dualities? Sitoshna, Sukhi Dukkheshu, Tatha Man Apamanaya. In heat and in cold, in pleasure, this Sita Ushna, heat and cold, Sukha Dukkha, the pleasure and the pain, Man Apaman, honor and dishonor. That whatever may be the situation in life, whatever may be the circumstances, nothing can disturb him, nothing can perturb him. So, first let us try to understand that why the word Atmana has been used to indicate that all the three, the body and the senses, in the first place the body and the senses is called Atmana. In the second place the mind is called Atmana. And of course the self is called the Atmana. So why this confusion? Why this Sanskrit language, which we say is a very, very precise and systematic language, that they avoid all sorts of confusion. Why they've used the word Atmana for all the three states of our existence. So actually the word Atmana means something within. So that Atmana means that which is within. So compared to the external world, the body and the senses is something within. With the help of the senses, I perceive the external world. So the body and the senses is something within compared to the external world. And again, the senses can perceive anything because the mind is working behind it. So the mind is again something within compared to the body and the senses. So you will find that if you take the etymological meaning of the word Atmana, then it means something within. And again, the mind is working because it has been activated by the self, by the conscious principle behind the mind. So that is the innermost core of our being. So that's why sometimes we will find the self is called Antaratmana or Paramatmana, the Supreme Self. One after the other, you are going. The last, the one who is the innermost core of our being, is the Paramatman, the self. That's why the self, the real self, is called Paramatman or Antaratman, the most innermost core of our being. So now we will find that what is saying that in the absolute sense, that though in the relative sense, the word Atman, in the relative sense, it may mean the body and the senses. Relative to the external world, it is something within. So relative sense. Again, relative to the mind, relative to the body and senses, the mind is something internal. And again, relative to the mind, the self, the real Paramatman, is something internal. So in relative sense, they have been used as the word Atman. But in absolute sense, the innermost self is called the Atman, and that's why it is also called the Paramatman. So now all the traits which has been spoken of in this sloka, Jitatmana, Prashanta, Paramatma Samahita, Sitoshna Shukhadukkheshu, Tatha Man Apamanayo Samata, the equanimity. The nodal point, the characteristic, the trait on which all other traits are dependent, all other traits manifest. If one trait manifests in your life, the other traits will manifest. So what is the trait which is the nodal trait here in this sloka? That is Paramatma Samahita. Once you are engrossed in the self, from that, the first thing that follows, you will become Jitatmana. The next thing that follows is you become Prashanta. Once you become Prashanta, then you develop that capacity to be or equanimous, to be always tranquil in all the dualities of life, expressed in the form of heat and cold, pleasure and pain, honor and dishonor. So whatever may be the situation. So this is the very idea of this sloka, that first comes Paramatma Samahita. Now we should always remember that this is the sloka which is describing the characteristic of one who is already established in yoga. Yoga Rura, the one who is already established. For him, these are the qualities, these are the traits which has been described. So first thing is that he is already engrossed in his contemplation of the self. He is already established in the self. He is no more aruruksha. He is not attempting, he is not trying, he is not endeavoring. He is habitually always engrossed in the self. As a result, what happens? The idea that I am this limited body-mind complex, that has been totally obliterated. He is always established in the idea that I am the self and the self alone. I am not this limited body-mind complex. Now all our desires arises from the sense that I am this limited body-mind complex. From that, all the desires in the form of raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, attachment, hatred, fear. These are the three main impulses behind all our actions. Anything which is favorable for my existence, I am attached to it. Anything which is not favorable, I hate it. And if it is too powerful, I am afraid of it, I run away from it. That's called fight and flight response. Or I am obsessed. So all these are the three basic impulses which motivates me to react, to get engaged with the world. So for one who is established in the self, the idea that he is limited body-mind complex, that has been obliterated. Now this idea that I am the limited body-mind complex from which arises the ego, that ego is again the nodal point of all our desires. As we gave that example, that all our desires are like the spikes and the ego is just like the hub of the will. If our personality is compared with the will, the hub of the will is the ego, and all the desires are like the spikes, innumerable spikes. So if I take away the hub, the entire will along with all the spikes will collapse. My limited individuality, personality will as if obliterate. So now we will understand that why it has been spoken of that as Paramatma, when I am engrossed in the self, then I need not have to take care of my desires one by one. That most probably I am addicted to something. I will find that those who are alcoholic, they sometimes find that it is disintegrating their life. So I have to get rid of this addiction. So it's a question of getting rid of those desires one by one. So, but when I am established in the self, know it for certain that all the desire falls off just in one go. And that's the idea of Jitatmana. The moment you are Paramatma Samahita, you become an adept in controlling your senses. They cannot disturb you anymore. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna used to say that the more you go towards the east, the west automatically falls behind. I cannot push the west. To avoid the west, to get rid of the west, I have just to move towards the east. So an adept who is established in the self, for him, self-control becomes habitual. It is something, the state of his existence. He need not have to renounce anything. Renunciation, everything just gets rid of himself. He doesn't get rid of him. The other things get rid, means they fall off automatically. So that's the idea of Jitatmana. And when there is nothing to distract me through all obsession, through fear and flight, then what happens? I attain a state of tranquility. I am calm. I am always equipoised. Nothing in this life can disturb me. So once who is Jitatmana, he becomes Prashanta. He is equipoised, calm. And when you are calm, as we have mentioned, that the external world is no more disturbing you. So the dualities start falling off. Shitoshna, Sukha Dukkha, Man Apamana. The heat and the cold means all the pleasurable feelings, all the unpleasurable feelings, Man Apaman. Whether someone is honoring you or someone is dishonoring you, disgracing you, it doesn't matter. You are equipoised in all the situations of life. The external world has lost its hold upon you. So that's a very important thing, that we will find in this life all our suffering. We think that the external circumstances are the cause of our suffering. But know it for certain, it is something minimal. It's not that the heat, the cold, the pleasure and the pain that the external world is constantly influencing us with, that doesn't affect us. It do affect us, but it affects us just a very small part of our so-called existence. Even if we really judge, if we really try to find out that what's the nature of our suffering, you will find that about 80%, that most of our suffering is because the way we react. The way we react, that's the main cause of our suffering. And that is the reason for which we find someone is suffering intensely, someone, though have gone through the same circumstances, as he has developed the capacity of that equanimity, is not suffering. That doesn't mean that when I have to be operated, some surgical process has to be done, I won't feel the pain. But if I am a person who is always established in the self, I can just go through that suffering in a detached manner, in a very detached manner, that I am not the body-mind complex, I am the self. The body-mind complex is going through the pain, not me. This idea can be you can be so ripened that at present, with our present state of mind, we cannot even imagine. Know it for certain that by attaining spiritually, we don't become inert. That would have been a regression. That when I stab a cabbage with a knife, there is no reaction. And when we say that when we go to the state of a Paramahamsa, when we go to the state of Yoga Rura, we are established in the self, the dualities doesn't affect us. Does it mean we become something like a cabbage? Inert, not anyway reacting to the external circumstances? No, it doesn't mean that. That realization is not something like anesthesia, that which helps us to forget, totally unaware of the suffering. It is there. It is there, but I don't react to it. Why I don't react to it? Because I know I am not that. I have developed the capacity to transcend that suffering. As we find in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna is, when he was suffering from that throat cancer, that intense pain of the cancer, he cannot take food. It's only liquid food somehow he could take, and that also half of the food will come out. That intense suffering, when someone is to ask, "Sir, how are you?" So very nicely that he is to say, "Shorir tar dukkho jane, mon tumi anande thako." The body knows its suffering. O mind, you be at peace. And he immensely was in that peace. When one young disciple was present in presence of Sri Ramakrishna, someone was asked, when Sri Ramakrishna's wound was they were washing the wound. And someone asked, "Is it paining?" Well, yeah, it's paining. It's extremely paining. And this young boy, then he told, "But sir, seeing your face, I feel that you are in some intense happiness, prashanti." And then Sri Ramakrishna is saying in Bengali, "Shala dhore feleche." That rascal has caught me, means he has actually understood my real feeling. Just when in a worldly way, when people is asking, we may say, yes, it's paining. But inwardly, I have separated myself from the body. As Sri Ramakrishna is to say, that what's the state of a yoga rule? The one who is established in that spiritual identity. He's just like a ripened coconut. The ripened coconut, you will find that the shell has been separated from the kernel. If you move the coconut, you can find that the kernel is separated from the shell. It is making a noise. For an unripe coconut, it is intertwined. We are like that unripe coconut. We can not even imagine that what that state is. It's a state where I do feel the pain, but the reaction is not there, because I know I am not the body-mind complex. I am separate from it. It's very difficult to understand from the present state of our awareness, because we are so much intertwined, so much identified with the body-mind complex. In the life of Swami Turiyananda, we find that he developed some carbuncles on his back, and it had to be operated. And when the doctors told that you have to have some anesthesia, now he was a realized soul. That the idea that his awareness will be totally lost because of the anesthesia, he never liked. He always used to be in that way, sitting in a very straight position. If you see his photo, you will find. Always in that mood of contemplation, always meditating on the self. It was a habitual state of his existence. So he vehemently denied, "No, I cannot have anesthesia." They said, "How will we operate?" Then he mentioned that before operation, let me know that when you are going to operate, just say, "Yes, in another 5 or 10 minutes, we are going to start the process." let me know. And then I will say you. Thus you can start without anesthesia. He went not only once, 3-4 times he went to that process without anesthesia. They have to mention, and he will just dive within, and he had developed that capacity to go through that without any reaction. So these things appear to be something very, very unnatural to us, because we can relate only to that state in which we are. Just as Swami Vivekananda used to say, that sometimes hearing that in the state of realization, your state of this, the idea that you are a limited individual, that falls off. And many get scared hearing that. If this idea of individuality is lost, then I am gone. And Swamiji says, no. That this individuality is actually nothing. Your real individuality is when you get established in the self. It is something which is non-local, which goes beyond time-space causation. And when these persons were scared, they told, I don't want to go to that state. And Swamiji used to say a very interesting thing. See, your condition, is like a small child. A small child who is quite happy with the toys and with the chocolates. All those things is his life. And now, when he's playing with the toys, you go and say to the child, what's childish thing? You're just playing with the toys? You have to grow. What will happen if I grow? Oh, you will become a scientist. You will be in a laboratory throughout the day, busy with all those experiments. Maybe you're passing hours focusing on the microscope. The child thinks it's boring. How interesting my life is at present with this all toys and chocolates. The child gets scared with the idea that he will have to renounce all this and will be totally engaged in some pursuit which speaks of scientific research. He doesn't want. He says that I am quite happy with all those things. We can never even realize the passion, the tremendous joy the scientists have when he is engrossed in his research work. He can not even imagine. So the same condition Swamiji is saying is with us, that we are as if a child as per our spiritual evolution is concerned. Jokingly, he used to say that you are all mustached babies. So physically you have grown, but spiritually we are all children. The idea that we can be totally detached from our body, mind, senses, we cannot even imagine. But that's what the scripture is saying. That you go to a state where it is not that you don't feel, you feel, but you have detached yourself. Just the way when you are suffering, I can be sympathizing with you, but I don't feel your pain. I am observing, but I don't feel, as I am not identified with it. It happens something like that. I can just see the body-mind complex, something like an object, and I am the one who is observing. So when it happens, when you are already Paramatma Samahita, you have got established in the self, you are now habitually always identified with the self, then there's all your senses cannot disturb you anymore. You become Prashanta and you go beyond the dualities of Sita Ushna, Sukha Dukkha, Mana Apamana. This Mana Apamana you will find in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. Now when in this period of sadhana, you will find that immediately after that, he was habitually in the state of samadhi. Most of the time, he was in the state of samadhi where he appeared to be inert, as if no life is there. And one day it so happened that Sri Ramakrishna was in deep samadhi. And after he came back from that samadhi, he used to be in a state where he's aware of the external world, but he cannot interact with it, because still the resonance of the state of samadhi that is continuing. So he's inert, though he is quite alert of what's going on in the external world. So he was lying in that state. He was deeply engrossed in the bhava, in the feeling of that samadhi. And now there was this Chandra Haldar. He was the family priest of Mathur Mohan. Now he was extremely jealous of Sri Ramakrishna. That though Chandra Haldar was the family priest, but he found Mathur always favors Ramakrishna. That he has started revering him like God. So seeing all this, and he finds Ramakrishna alone lying that in like as if in an inert state, Chandra Haldar thought that this is the best time to just have some interaction with Ramakrishna. So he came near Ramakrishna and asked him that please tell me how you have hypnotized Mathur. That Mathur has been totally hypnotized by you. He has become as if your disciple. He is so much influenced by you. If I could have done it, I could have got so much of advantage, because he has this worldly idea from that. So he was asking repeatedly that please tell me how you have brought Mathur under your control, how you hypnotized him. And he finds there is no response. And Chandra Haldar thought that Sri Ramakrishna doesn't want to just divulge. And he was already very much jealous of him. Finding no response from Sri Ramakrishna, he kicked Ramakrishna. As Ramakrishna, as we told that he was in that antarbahya dasa, he was not fully in that state of samadhi. He was aware of the external world, but he cannot react to it. So he sensed that what has happened, but he never spoke of it to Mathur. Never. Only after, for some other reason, Chandra Haldar was actually he was removed from his this duty, this priestly his duty as a priest of the family priest, for some other reason. Mathur was extremely annoyed. He was removed, and then when he was no more working for Mathur, then Sri Ramakrishna mentioned that what has happened. And hearing that, Mathur was so much angry. He told, if you have told me, I would have just simply removed his head from his shoulder. So that was the reaction of Mathur. But Sri Ramakrishna knew that what will be the reaction of Mathur. Just see the compassion. He never mentioned. They go beyond mana apamana. This idea of, because he is established in the self, he knows nothing can affect him. Whether you praise him, whether you insult him, nothing can affect the real self. So he has gone beyond all those things. So that's the idea which has been spoken of in the 7th verse. In the 8th verse, what it is saying, the same idea is expanded, is still more further expanded. What is saying? Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutastho Vijitendriya Yukta Ityuchyate Yogi Sama Loshta Ashma Kanchana. Loshta-ashma Kanchana. So what is Jnana Vijnana Triptatma? Tripta, the sense of fulfillment. In our life, that's the only goal we have, to be fulfilled. That's why we chase after desire. The tremendous yearning for the desire, the moment it is satiated, we get a sense of fulfillment. But does that fulfillment last? No. Again the new craving comes. And that's what is constantly going on. We are in that, as if in a hedonistic treadmill, chasing after the desire. Never it is fulfilled. Here the scripture is saying, when you become yoga rura, you are established in the self, you become tripta atma. You are always fulfilled. Why? Because your life has been enriched by jnana vijnana. These words are very, very technical. Jnana vijnana. Jnana is that till I reach the ultimate realization, all the scriptural knowledge on which I am meditating, that is jnana. Aham brahmasmi, I am contemplating, I am yet to realize. And this contemplation has become so intense that my mind has taken just a brahmakara vritti. The vritti has become the form of Brahma. Still the vritti is there, but it is just thinking of Brahman. That's why it's called brahmakara vritti or ishtak Ishta akara vritti, Ishta akara vritti. It has taken the form of your Ishta. Nanya vacha vimunchat. Everything else has fallen off. But still you are yet to realize your so-called, the idea of this limited individuality is yet to be washed off to take you to that ultimate realization. So you are still a jnani. For that jnana at last, the brahmakara vritti, they say, that destroys the mula ajnana, the ultimate ignorance. What is ignorance? That I am this limited body-mind complex. It is a mula ajnana. So that is washed off. Mula jnana falls off by this brahmakara vritti, and it takes you to that instant realization that you are the self. And that realization is spoken of as vijnana. Whenever you will find in Bhagavad Gita, they have used prefixes. Bhagavan has used a lot of prefixes before the words. And immediately the meaning changes. Jnana means knowledge. Vijnana means vishesha jnana. The knowledge which is very, very specific. What is general knowledge and what is specific knowledge? If I say that the mango is sweet and it has a nice flavor, it's a general knowledge. You just get an idea of it. But when you test the knowledge, when you test the mango, then the knowledge comes is very specific. You know that what the exact taste is. So that is vijnana. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, what is vijnana and what is jnana? That when you are approaching a market, this is a market you are approaching from a long distance, you hear some humming noise. So you understand that some people are most probably bargaining, the seller is calling out the price, and all those noise from a distance, it is just a humming noise. You can never hear distinctly. But when you go to the market, now you can hear distinctly what all are just conversing. That the seller is calling out the price, the buyer is bargaining, all those things now you can hear distinctly. So he is saying, this jnana is just like from a distance, you are listening to the humming of the market. Vijnana is you run the market. Now you are distinctly hear what all conversations are going on. So that's the jnana, vijnana. So the jnana has ripened into vijnana. The knowledge has ripened into realization. Then what happens? For such a person, he becomes kutastha. Kutastha speaks what? Kuta is the anvil. You will find for the blacksmith, there's an anvil on which he places the red hot iron and goes on hammering to give it a shape. So much of hammering for days together, months together, years together goes on. But does the anvil changes? No change. The anvil remains as it is. It just absorbs the shock of this repeated hammering on it. Nothing can affect it. So you become something like that. These words are wonderful. Kutastha. You become like that, the anvil of the blacksmith. It's not that the hammering of the life will stop. That will go on incessantly. But you have become a very powerful. You have become spiritually resilient. Nothing affects you. So when you are established in that vijnana, you become kutastha. And again the same word, vijitendriya. So as we told, in Sanskrit, in Gita, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan is again and again using the prefixes. See, jitendriya itself would have been sufficient. And why is using the word vijitendriya? Well, the one who is reading the Bhagavad Gita for the first time, they think most probably as it is Anushtup Chandra, to make that's the rhyme of exact that 8 syllables should be there in each phrase. You will find these verses are having 4 phrases. Each verse has 4 phrases. There are 2 lines. Each line has 2 phrases, and both the line together 4 phrases. And each phrase will have exactly 8 syllables. That's the Anushtup Chanda. It's a marvelous way of rhyming the entire scripture, Bhagavad Gita. Most of these verses are in this Anushtup Chanda. So exactly 8, 8, 8, 8. And that's why when you chant, you can chant in a particular tune. Now, many think that just to rhyme it in this Anushtup Chandra, they've used these prefixes. Jitendriya would have been enough. Why Vijitendriya? Very interesting. Jitendriya. So when, as an ordinary person, I have developed some addiction for smoking or for alcohol or whatever it may be. Now with lot of effort, I get rid of that addiction. So I can be called a Jitendriya. I am a Jitendriya. I have developed the capacity to go beyond that addiction or beyond that attachment. But why Vijit? What Vijitendriya means? Vijitendriya means when, again the same idea, when I'm established in the self, I won't have to get rid of those vyakta vasana. There are so many desires. Some have manifested, some are not manifested. They're hidden in my subconscious mind. When the favorable circumstances come, they also will manifest. They will jump up. I need not have to take care of them at present. I can take care of the vyakta vasana only. Those who have manifested. A Jitendriya is one who is taking care with his willpower of his vyakta vasana. But one who is established in the self, as we were mentioning just now, the ego has fallen off. The hub of the will has been obliterated. All the spikes, vyakta as well as avyakta. There are so many desires, so many. Some are manifested in this life, some are not, will be manifested in the next life. Not only that, some desires are not manifested immediately, which may manifest again in the later phase of my life. Even in our day-to-day life, we can find that I most probably tasted a delicacy today. I really liked it. And I forgot about it. I was busy with the life. And someone brought it. Or I went to a restaurant where I found in the menu that delicacy is there. Immediately, even before ordering, you will find you have started salivating. What it speaks of? This vasana was avyakta, was not manifested. That seeing just the words, the menu, you do not have to see the dish, just that word, that such and such delicacy. Immediately you feel that urge, and that's why you order, that's why the menu book is there. So then that thing which was avyakta, it becomes vyakta. Now the question comes, if there are so many desires, how I will just get control over them one by one? It is almost impossible. So now this word Vijitendriya, it's not just for rhyming. There's one who has realized the self. For him all the desires have fallen off all at once. The hub of the will has been removed, all the spikes will fall off. The entire, this limited individuality, the will collapse. So now you will understand. So there are two types of Vairagya. One is called just Vairagya in Yoga Shastra, and another is Para Vairagya. So this Vijitendriya speaks of this Para Vairagya, supreme renunciation, where everything has fallen off by itself. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, when the wound is healed, the scab falls off by itself. So you have been healed from the wound of worldliness. The scab, all the desires are in the form of scabs, they fall off automatically. So that's the idea of Vijitendriya. So when not only jnana, you are established in vijnana. So again that a prefix, vi, vishesha jnana. When you have realized, it's not just your conceptual knowledge. You have realized the self. Then you become Vijitendriya, not only Jitendriya, Vijitendriya. All the desires falls off automatically. And you become Yukta. Yukta means always united with the self. Nothing in this life can in any way make you distracted from your identity with your real nature. Yukta. Ityuchyate yogi. He is such a person, is the real yogi. For him, sama, loshta, ashma, kanchana. What happens? This loshta means a cloud of earth, and this ashma is the stone, and kanchana is the gold. All becomes same. Everything is irrelevant. Why? Why everything is irrelevant? Because now when I'm established in the self, I know the entire world is a mere projection of the self. It doesn't have any tangible reality. Can you love something which is virtual? No. You know it is just something virtual. That example which we give again and again. When Swami Vivekananda was passing through the desert, he was thirsty. He was in search of water. He saw a huge reservoir at a distance. He started proceeding towards it. It vanished. Then it dawned, oh, that's a mirage. Till now, I had the jnana of mirage. It was a conceptual knowledge. Today, it has led to vijnana. I have realized what it is. As long as it was jnana, it didn't help me. I thought that reservoir of water can quench my thirst and I was proceeding towards it. But now with vijnana, I know it's virtual. It's not real. The next day when again he is walking through the desert, again that comes in front of him. He sees it. It's not that he won't see it. But today, he is not drawn by it. It has become insignificant. So now you will understand that what actually is meant by sama, loshta, ashma, kanchana. All this gradation, that this is useless, that is worthy, all these ideas falls off. You see everything as a mere projection of the self. So nothing attracts you, nothing repels you. They are just as they are. That's why we find Sri Ramakrishna during his period of sadhana, what he was doing, that when he got his salary, he never wanted the salary. He never wanted to become the priest of the Kali temple. The circumstances were such that at last he had to accept the job of a priest. And now as a priest, he was given a salary. So when he got the salary, the idea that I work and for that work I get the salary, with that idea, the idea of karta comes. I am the doer and I am the enjoyer. For my work, I get this salary. So he was so intensely desiring for the spiritual evolution. He literally practiced, not only in mind, physically. He took that the salary, the coins in his hand, the salary which he got, and he took in another hand a clod of earth, mixed it together, saying taka mati mati taka, this both are same, and threw it in the Ganges. What it speaks of, this the idea of sama, loshta, ashma, kanchana. They are of no worth for me. There's no worth. So sometimes these stories are wonderful. It helps. You know that Sanatana Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disciple, he was a illumined soul. He used to lead a life of extreme renunciation. He was in Vrindavan, staying just by the side of the Yamuna river in a small hermitage, just like a hermit. He will go and just beg for some dried breads, because that will stay. You know, that's all the dried. If it is moistened, it will easily get spoiled. So he will bring the breads and he will sun dry it so that it can stay for long. And one by one, he will have a small piles of those breads. He will just moisten it, and that was his only food. Extremely, and throughout the day and night will pass in his meditation, contemplation. Just he had only two sets of his clothing. Only one set of clothing for this going out for bhiksha, and he had antarvasa. That's the loin cloth. That two sets. When he used to take his deep in the Yamuna, he will change one he give for drying, and only one cloth for going out. So that was only his clothing. We cannot even imagine that extreme, the life of a renunciate. Now, a man in Kashi, a Brahmin Kashi is far from Vrindavan. He was very much, worried that he has a daughter of a marriageable age, but he doesn't have money, sufficient money, so that he can give his daughter in marriage. He needs some money for the wedding, for the wedding ceremony or whatever it may be. So now he was a devotee of Shiva. He was intensely praying to Shiva. Shiva, please see that I can give my daughter in marriage. She has grown, and one day Shiva came into his dream, he was in Kashi, that he told that you go to Vrindavan and there you will find Sanatana Goswami is there. You meet him and he is having a parashmani, a touchstone. Anything you touch, you get that with a touchstone, it will turn into gold. And he is having that touchstone. So if you go and ask him, he will give it to you. Go and ask him, he will give it to you. And then you will be sufficient. You can, with the touchstone, you can convert anything you want to gold and you will be sufficiently rich. I was very happy. So he started his journey from Kashi to Vrindavan. When he reached Vrindavan, at last he found Sanatana Goswami in that hermitage. He was surprised. How can such a rich man, he's supposed to be a rich man, he's having that touchstone, he's living this life of a recluse. He couldn't believe, but still, as Shiva came to his vision and gave him, as instructed him, he asked Sanatana Goswami that Shiva told me you have some very precious stone. Will you give it to me? Now Sanatana Goswami himself forgot that he really have it. He told him, no, I don't have any such stone. Well, it cannot be. My Lord has told you have. It must be. You are just lying. You are just speaking. You are not speaking the truth. You are lying to me. And then Sanatana Goswami, after just intensely thinking, at last he remembered, yes, someone did give him a touchstone and he found it is useless. It is of no use. So he just threw it in the garbage, some outside, so there was some garbage bin or a pile of garbage. He threw it there. So then he told, oh yes, I remember. I found it's of no use to me. So I threw it there. You go and search there, most probably you may get it. Now this man really hurried, rushed, and he searched that pile of garbage and he got the touchstone. He was extremely elated. He told, yes, I got it. Well, yes, you can take it. He was really surprised. Can anyone just throw this touchstone this way? He was so surprised, and then with the touchstone he started going back to Kashi. He was on his midway, but now he became greedy. He thought that Shiva in vision told him actually that he will give you his most precious thing. The most precious thing he has, he will give it to you if you ask from him. Now this is the thing, he threw it in the garbage. Then something must be with him which is more precious. Otherwise, why will he throw it in the garbage bin? He must be having something more precious. And Shiva told, if I ask, he will give it to me. He again came back and asked Sanatana Goswami, it cannot be the most precious thing. You must be having something more precious. Otherwise, how is just simply you can throw it? And he told, no, that's the only thing most probably that Shiva has mentioned. I don't have anything precious. No, you give a thought. And then Sanatana Goswami smiled. He asked, do you want a more precious thing than this? Oh, yeah, I want that. But then go and first throw this touchstone in the Yamuna river. Go and throw it and then come back to me. These stories are wonderful, wonderful stories. So he went and threw this touchstone and came back. And then Sanatana Goswami is saying, sit down, I will give you initiation in the name of Krishna. So that's the more precious thing. So now you will understand this idea that when you are Paramatma Samahita, when you know you have got the jewel, the real jewel, your Vijnana, your Triptatma, you have become Kutastha, nothing can disturb you. Everything has now become same to you. Sama, Loshta, Ashma, even the touchstone has no value. It's all mere projection. So that's the wonderful idea which we get from this loka. Vijnana, Yana Vijnana Triptatma, Kutastha. Nothing can in any way disturb him. Vijitendriya. He has gone beyond all the cravings of life. Everything has fallen off. He need not have to renounce them. Everything has fallen off. He is yukta always. Always he is in tune with the divine. Nothing can disturb him. He is always yukta. And such a person is only yogi, and he is sama loshta ashmakanchana. He has gone. He has transcended the likings and dislikings of the so-called the wealth, all the wealth which the world has to offer it to you. He has gone beyond that. He knows for certain that they are just mere, trivial. They cannot in any way affect the real state of his existence by enriching or by depriving. In any way they cannot affect. So that's the idea which has been spoken of in the 8th verse. So this I will just like to relate that this idea of kutastha is very important, that how you become kutastha, nothing disturbs you. So only when you can relate to the spiritual dimension of your existence, that alone can make you kutastha. Nothing can make you otherwise kutastha. That in that what disturbs us, that in our life we find that nowadays we say that we go through this, that why he has become so depressed, he has gone through some trauma, inescapable trauma. That we find in our life, that we go through some situation where the trauma, I cannot escape in any way, however I may try. I have been cornered. And that, in the modern psychology, they say it leads to learned helplessness. You know you are helpless. And that makes you a pessimist. You develop a defeatist attitude. You never try. You get depressed. But it is not always true that though most of the people develop that defeatist attitude from that learned helplessness, a few are optimists. They never learn that they are helpless. However, the situation of life may be imposed upon them, every time they take the situation as something new, fresh, and again they have the capacity to spring back and struggle. That's the resilience. This optimist. Now, in this positive psychology, they try to distinguish the traits that though there are very few people who develop this optimistic attitude, that nothing can in any way that subjugate them. They are always having that optimistic trait, though they are very few. But what are the traits that characterizes them, that differentiates them from the majority who develop the defeatist attitude? If we know that, then we can develop those qualities and try to just be more resilient in life. So through research, very simple thing they found out, that an optimist never thinks that the problem through which I am going is permanent. It will pass. Agama, apayina, anitya. Tang titikshasva bharat. As in Bhagavad Gita we studied already. That they come, they go, they are anitya. So just persevere. So that's what an optimist does. They are just temporary, they are not permanent. But the majority, the pessimists, they think, oh, my life is gone. That these problems are going on, it is going to stay with me, I am not going to get rid of it, that's my fate. And he takes them to be the permanent, something has happened to him. And another thing is these two traits, mainly these two traits. Another is the optimist always can have the capacity to keep his problem local. That it is just has affected a part of my life. It has not affected my entire life. Something has happened, I know to keep it local. I don't pervade it so that it affects my entire life. That example I sometimes used to give, that a student is most probably weak in mathematics. And constantly his parents start saying, oh, you are getting so poor marks in mathematics, teacher starts saying, and he starts worrying over it so much. Most probably he was good in all other subjects, and this worry starts affecting his entire personality. Everything gets affected. If he would have kept it local, he knew that I have 90 good faculties, 10 faculties are there in which I am weak. Why to concentrate on this? Why not concentrate on what's positive? I can flourish. I need not be good in everything. So the optimist, they have the capacity to keep the thing local, and for the pessimist, the problem becomes pervasive. It starts pervading every sphere of their life. These are very these discussions are good in this way. It really makes us reflect in our own situations of life. You'll find that that's what we are doing. We think the problems are permanent, and it pervades our life. We are so much worried. Everything we forget. Constantly delving in that small thing which has happened. So these are the true traits. Now we have to develop these two traits, come out of these two traits. Now, again, it's easy to say that you come out of these threats, but how to come out of these threats? So for that, again, we relate to a wonderful analogy. That if you try to solve the problems of life from your physical plane of existence alone, you will not get answers. But what's the answer of this problem? Yes, I shouldn't take all the problems of life as something permanent. I shouldn't make it all pervasive. But how? I find no answer. So sometimes the answer of the question lies in a different dimension. Unless I remain to relate to that, I can never find answer. And that example which we gave so again and again, that in a classroom, a teacher gave that question, that just join 4 points to get exactly 4 triangles. You try your best, you can never. You'll never get exactly 4 triangles by joining 4 points. That you may place the points as you wish, 4 points, and try to join. You will find it is always more than 4 triangles. Or 2 lines will intersect to create the 5th point. You will not get exactly 4 triangles. So the students were trying hard, they couldn't get the answer. At last the teacher gave the answer. What's the answer? He just drew 3 points, spotted 3 points in the blackboard. And then he told, now draw a triangle. There's only 1 triangle. The 4th point, now imagine in the space, not on the blackboard, not on the page, the space. Now you join all those 3 points with this point in the space. You will get exactly 3 triangles, vertical triangles that joining the space. So you will get a triangular pyramid with exactly 4 triangular faces. So why the students couldn't get the answer? Because they were trying to put all the points in the 2 dimension. Unless they put 1 point in the 3rd dimension, the space, they can never get the answer. So now when I say that yes, to be optimist, you should always take the problems as temporary. It is local. How is it possible? In my life, I am going through inescapable trauma. Situation is such, nothing can make me get out of it. Yes, there are situations. I am bound to be depressed. What can help me? No psychologist can help you. However you may try. Unless you relate to that 3rd dimension, the spiritual dimension, that I am eternal self. I was, I am, I will be. I am in eternal communion with the divine. This life itself is just a passing phase. Whatever may be the problem, how unsurmounting the problems may be, it's going to end. It is not going to be the be-all and end-all of my existence. Because of some reason, I don't know what, it has affected the present me, but it will pass away. The one who is established in the self, always relating to that spiritual dimension, for him, everything becomes temporary, everything becomes local. I still remember this is the thing on which we were having a class, and someone from this who was attending the class told, oh, these are all very hi-fi talks. How is it possible in life? Yes. That's the thing. Again and again we say that the entire spirituality, there was no need for it if we would have got all the answers here. What was the need for it? Sankhya philosophy starts with that analogy. What's the analogy? That there is a mango orchard on the top of the hill because the weather there permits the mangoes to grow. In the plateau, there are no mangoes. Now the people take assiduous journey. They take a lot of labor to climb the mountain to get those mangoes. And then the scripture is saying, what was the need for this much of effort? If the mangoes were available on the plain, there was no need. As it is not available here, you have to take that effort. So that's the thing the scriptures is asserting again and again. Yes, there are mangoes on the top of the mountain. You have to climb. There's no other way. If you want that, if you want to be a Tripta Atma, you have to climb. And it is very difficult, but it is not impossible. This difficulty and impossibility are not synonymous. It is difficult. Kshurasya dhara, as in the Upanishad we have studied, Kathopanishad. That is like walking on the edge of walking on the edge of a razor. It's not easy, but it is possible. And you may say, as it is so difficult, why I opt for it? I don't need, I'm quite happy. Yes, as long as you're happy, you need not opt for it. But know it for certain, today or tomorrow, we all will have that idea, I'm not satisfied with this life. And then the scriptures say, Nanya Pantha Vidyate. There is no other way. You have to take this climb. And that's what Bhagavan is saying here. So once we realize the self, these are the traits which are going to find expression in our life. So in the ninth sloka, yes, this time is over, we will find they speak that even there is a state is better than these yogis, that who sees everything, the inanimate objects they are seeing, they see as projection of the reality is just something not real in absolute sense. There is no paramarthik satya. It is vyavaharik. Just for the time being they may have some use, but in real sense they have no use. And they can transcend it. They can simply disregard it. But what about our relations with the so-called animate, with other human beings? To just something inanimate, easily I can transcend. But when we will find that someone is constantly disturbing me, my enemy, someone is flattering me, these becomes a more challenging job. So here says, here the next sloka will say that he is even the best among the yogis. Who is the best? Vishishyate. He is even better than one who has just transcended the inanimate objects. So as one who even transcends the humans and the relations with the humans. He is the supreme, excellent yogi among all yogis. Surin, Mitra, Udasina, Madhyastha, Dveshya, Vandhusu, Sadhushvapicha Papeshu, Samabuddhir Vishishyate. The one who excels among the yogis, who looks equally a well-wisher, the Surit, a friend, Mitra. What is the difference between a well-wisher and a friend? A well-wisher is habitually, he wishes well for all. And a person who wishes well for all. He may not be a friend. He wishes well for all. To everyone in general. A friend, he has an affection for you. That's why he wishes well for you. So that's the difference. A very subtle difference. So he may be a surit, means a well-wisher, or a friend, an enemy. They need not explain. He's always thinking of harming you. A neutral. When you are having a fight with someone else, there is someone who takes no party. Means he's not neither supporting you nor supporting your enemy. He's udasena. Or madhyastha, an arbiter. He's not siding with anyone, but he's trying to solve the problem. He's trying to resolve the dispute. So he's an arbiter. He's a madhyastha. Or a person whom you hate because of his sinful qualities, this dveshya, a hateful person. Or he may be your relative, bandhushu, who belongs to your, have blood relations, kith and kin. And or someone who is good, this sadhushu, or someone who is sinner, papeshu. The one who has samabuddhi for all, he is vishishyate. We will take up the discussion again from this sloka next class. But just to give you an example, in our order it is said that we are supposed to serve all, thinking them as the manifestation of the divine. That's one of the main pillars of the Ramakrishna order. Shiva, Jnane, Jiva, Seva. And the thing which is told again and again, it is very easy to do puja every day. Because here the Guru Maharaj sitting in the photo won't react. If I give something, which is some fruit which is not has ripened, only after prasada I will find, I have offered something which is not properly ripe, I have offered. But Guru Maharaj won't react. So it is easy to do this puja, ritualistic worship, where God doesn't react. But it is really difficult to the worship where people react. That the parents and the grandparents knows that how difficult it is, a challenging job to look after the grandchildren. It's very, very good, but you know very well So when this challenge comes, and to really maintain similar that same attitude, that it is the Lord alone who has found expression as the entire world. When I am relating to the world, I am relating as worship. It is of course more difficult than this worship. So that's why it is called Vishishya. He is a more adept yogi who can remain equanimous even when dealing with not inanimate, even with the animate objects. So we will just describe it a bit more in details again in the next class. We will start from there. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.